Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, we just picked up a 1989 FJ62. And your first question probably is, Jonas, did you really buy another one? Well, I may have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night, and I know that I don't need another one. And the question is, no, I did not buy it. This is a friend and customers of mine. He got in a front end accident. And let me tell you, you should see the other car, because I don't think it looks as good as this one. So we're going to be fixing up the front end of this truck. I have all the parts in storage to make that happen. So we went down and picked this truck up this morning. We got a little bit of work to do, as you can see. So that's going to be the project for the next couple weeks, is getting this truck all back on the road and right and back into a pristine condition. Let's get started. You might be wondering how this happened. Well, front end accident usually happens when somebody comes to a sudden stop and just slams into you. And that is the textbook reason that this truck looks this way. In fact, somebody did come to an immediate stop and he slammed into them. He drove the truck off site, which is pretty amazing. It doesn't look like it should be driven. To get it on the trailer, we did not run it. We winched it on. I'll be getting all this stuff off. We're gonna have to cut the bumper off. I have a red hood in storage, which is pretty cool. And all the bezels and grill and main radiator support is gonna have to be taken off as well. So basically the whole entire front end of this truck is gonna come apart. That was a lot of work, but we got most of the front end all tore apart. As you can see, it got hit hard right here, and in fact the radiator support was all rusted out and the body mount was completely removed from the radiator support. The frame does have a little bit of a bend here, which I was hoping to not see, so maybe it'll bend this bumper horn back into place to put a 62 bumper back on. I'm going to see what the customer wants to do there. All these bolts and are going to need to be cut out because, as you can see, they're just rusted all out. The actual wheel well on this truck has been pushed up. Quarter here is a little pushed up. I'm going to see what I can do to get that to actually fit back into place, because right now I don't have a quarter for this truck. This side is all in excellent shape, so I don't see any problem here. We are going to go ahead and take the radiator support off because it is tacoed and bent at the top, and with that rust. Gonna go get one pulled off the parts truck. We've come over to the new FJ62 parts truck, and we're pulling the radiator support, which is in excellent shape for that truck. Most of it, when I got the truck, was already pulled off, so it saved us a ton of time. But right now we're pulling off the radiator, which I'm pulling and leaving in the truck because this truck still does move. We've pulled the condenser for the AC, and we're pulling the front bolts. I'm trying to do this without pulling the side fenders off, but if you're doing it correctly, those fenders do need to drop off to the side. So we're working on that now. Let's get her out and see if we can get it back into that FJ62. I should have known better that without pulling the fenders, it wasn't going to come out. Time to start another truck. Although the 62 is a parts truck, I wanted to show everybody that you can in fact bolt up a 60 series radiator support. This is the rusty one that I had sitting in storage, and I want to show that you could bolt it up. There are a few other items that you'll need, like a grill support, because the grill is different than a 62. You'll also need the lower valance. That is also different. The light bezels will be different. Fenders are also different. This little plug here is for 62 specific. You can still get the 60 bezels on there without those guys. You can cut those off. As you can see, it's on there. As you saw when we took the front radiator support off the parts truck, we had to remove this fender. So I've gone ahead and loosened all those bolts and taken them out. With this truck being as nice as it is, it still has the chrome molding here on the rocker. This stuff is very fragile, especially these clips that go into the body. We're removing it with a little bit of a flathead screwdriver to make sure that we don't hurt the clips, and we can put it right back on the way it was. So once we get this chrome off, we should be able to pull that fender off. nicely and easy. Again, this chrome stuff is very, very rare and hard to find, so you want to be very delicate with it as you pull it off. So able to get it off without breaking any of the clips. There's 2 front screws here that had to come off as well. But again, it's very pays to be very careful with this chrome piece because very hard to find these days. So let's get this fender off. It's radiator support. Just came here to part storage to grab a hood for the FJ62. I'm running a little low on hoods right now. It seems to be hood season for guys that are restoring their trucks. So we got the hood all tied down and ready to go back to the truck. So let's run over there, get that old crunched one off and get this nicely painted, solid rust-free one back on. With the entire front end all stripped down finally, we're ready to start putting this 62 back together. Had to go get a couple things from storage. As you saw, we got a hood. I also needed to grab a fan shroud, which I lightly painted up, as this one in the front end accident got all bent up and is actually hitting the V-belt, the power steering V-belt. I had to order the V-belt on Rock Auto. That'll be here in a couple days. That's not gonna stop us from putting the front end all back together. First thing is first, we're gonna put this fan shroud on since it's fairly easy to grab a hold of the radiator and move it away from the fan and get this on. Then we'll start putting the radiator support back on. So there's a lot of work to do, and hopefully that the front end wasn't too mangled and we're able to get this all back together and in one piece. We got the radiator support all back in place with its body mounts. They did all sort of match up with a little persuasion. This fender was definitely clocked a little bit that way. We had to bend it back. You can see there's a little bit of a bend here. Also down here, you can see that it was bent. So we used a little bit of wood and a bar to bend that back into place. You could actually bolt the support back up. We have to bend some of this other stuff back into place because it got hit pretty hard here. As you can see, the radiator support is in, and that is a success in any book, I believe. So now the fun part starts of putting all the cosmetic stuff back on this truck. I don't have a lower valance, especially don't have one in red for this truck. We went ahead and bent back his old valance the best I could, used a little block of wood and a little hammer and got it to straighten out for the most part. I told him as soon as I find one that's in not rusted and decent shape that I'll send it his way. Right now we got to get that on. I was able to bend back the bumper horns slightly. The customer is also going to be going with a off-road bumper in the future. I'm going to put a factory stock one back on, and then we're going to change out the hood, and let's jump to it, get this balance on. Got the bumper all back on after some serious persuasion on these bumper horns. Got the carriage bolts back in as well. Had to steal those from a couple of bumpers that I ironically had sitting in the back of my truck here. That's all on. I still need to tackle the bumper caps and figure out what we're gonna do there. I'm having an issue with the valance right now. There is this large gap right here because when it was hit, it pushed this fender out like I said before. So I'm trying to ratchet strap it and use a little bit of strength to pull it back in. It's still having an issue bolting up here. But for the most part, I think if we can get that to push over a little bit, it will meet right back up with the valance. and it'll actually look pretty dang good. See if this thing will match up. Sweet, the hood closes, that's a relief. I was a little worried about that. The gaps are a little funny, a little bit. I think that's just because the hinges might have been hit and moved a little bit when the car accident happened. Got the bumper caps all installed on the bumper. We have our valance and fender all tightened down. As you can see, there is a little bit of a gap there. That's as good as it's gonna get with these old bent up parts. Getting ready to add the bezel, grille, blinker, and marker lights for the final time here to finally button up the front end here. We still have some small things to take care of after that, and then maybe we'll go for a little bit of a test drive. Let's get this stuff finished up so we can go relax for the rest of the day. Well, we finally got the 62 off the trailer, and she's looking absolutely gorgeous. The customer has requested that I do an oil change. We're gonna jump under the truck and do that. Top off the coolant, we've already gone ahead and do that. It was actually a whole bottle low on coolant, so I'm glad that we topped that off. Also wants to go ahead and do the upholstery work on the front driver's seat, which anybody that knows these 60 series, that's pretty much a common issue across the board. I did a whole video on doing a complete redo on one of those seats, so that link will be right here. I'm just gonna do a little time lapse while I do that. We have this exceptionally nice passenger side seat that we're gonna use as a donor to make sure that this driver's side seat looks like this for many years to come. And just like that, we have a fresh looking seat. I think it turned out really well. If you're wondering how I did that so quickly, I have a step-by-step process of doing this to your very own seat. So make sure you check out that video. The link will be here above, like I said. Whew, let's get it bolted in. Just did a fresh oil change. And one thing I noticed when the truck was here is that it's having a hard time idling. Giant vacuum leak here. You can actually hear it hissing. So that could be number one. Number two here is look on the intake boot, all ripped. So I think that is the problem of our terrible idle. The customer said that it's been doing this for a long time. After it warms up, it doesn't do it anymore. So we're gonna take a look at those two items, get them all fixed up and see if we can get it to idle a little better than this. This isn't the most ideal fix, but I wanted to make sure that this was the issue with the idle. Use a little bit of a duct tape to clear that hole. I do have another intact hose. I'll talk to the customer about putting that on. But idle's great. It idles exactly the way it should. Fixing those two vacuum leaks and intake leaks was the fix for the truck running and driving the way it needs to. That's a huge success. I'm glad it wasn't something bigger. After our first test drive, the speedo wasn't working. So we had to pull the entire dash apart. I have the old speedo cable here. We're gonna go ahead and replace it. It does spin fairly free, but when you hook it up to the speedo that's on the dash, it doesn't work. So I have a FJ62 one that I have here that I plugged directly into the speedo when it was out. And as you spin it, it worked. I'm gonna say that this cable is bad. We're gonna get that switched out and put the dash all back together. As you can see here, the odometer is working again, and the speedo is working as it should. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. Putting in a new speedo cable makes a world of difference in these old trucks. Let's get her home. So that's going to conclude this episode and the work done to this FJ62. Before the owner comes and picks up this truck, I went ahead and detailed it up so he can feel really great about driving this beautiful red truck home for the first time in many years. I think she's really come a long way since the first time I laid eyes on her a couple weeks ago, and after a couple days of hard work, it just really shows that this truck will live on for a very long time. If you like this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, like and share these videos. And if you're looking for parts to do something similar like I just did to this truck, feel free to email me. I have a whole bunch of stuff in inventory, and we'll talk about what things you need and how to get them to you. Cheers, and we'll see you on the next episode.